The biggest problems, the biggest issues in Raid Shadow Legends now that we've started the new year. Let's get right into it. What up team, it's your boy MurderInc here, back again with another banger of a video. We are going to be talking about the worst of the game. Now, don't be fooled, don't be discouraged. This isn't some whine, complain video. I do think it's important to address a topic as vital as this because no game can really grow unless we do address the clearly, I guess, bad parts about the game. So, like I said, this isn't me just complaining about all the bad parts in the game, none of the whining. That's not what we're here for. If you've been watching me, you kind of understand this channel already, and there are clear issues with the game. They need to be addressed. We need to discuss them. Maybe I've missed something. I do have a pretty decent list here, as you can all imagine. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be Classic Arena. I've mentioned this a bit recently, so I'm not going to get into it in too much detail here. Listen, the flaws are clear. The fact that all of the teams in Gold 4 at the moment have very high quality champions. I mean, look at my points, 2,961 on the lower end of Gold 4. The fact that you need to get to this ranking to achieve unlocking Arbiter from the missions, it's just bad game design. This is something that's been around forever pretty much, so that's kind of the extent of that. Arena is not too hard, it's just everything paired with the brackets that you need to hit as far as the gold tier, the silver tier. It's just not realistic as far as the Arbiter missions. All they really have to do is change the Arbiter mission goals and the milestones and everything is going to be fine. Now that doesn't, for example, mean that Arena is perfect. I think there does need to be some more incentive for the arena. Great Hall is huge, don't get me wrong. And of course the materials for the forge, clear benefit there, but there could be something else, maybe some type of daily or weekly bonus for winning 10 matches in a row, having a high win rate, something like that, just to give players more resources so they really consider Arena something besides just mindless farming, because there's plenty of that in the game already, and I think they can do a much better job in the arena, which gets to our next point, 3 versus 3 arena. Now, as you can see, I've dropped to Gold 2, and I'm sure many players have with accounts like mine, because honestly, we just don't care. Like, the bazaar is good, don't get me wrong, the rewards are fantastic, but again, there's not this huge drive to do this. It's become very annoying as far as 3v3 goes. The investment you need in 3v3 for 3 solid teams is crazy. They don't have instant battles. They do have, though, the way to kind of auto through all 3 battles, which was a new-ish feature. I say new in the span of the game being around, but as far as that goes, that was a step in the right direction. The problem is people don't care. How do we know people don't care? Because of how difficult 3v3 is for so many players. If you look at silver, bronze, you see all of these full legendary teams. Why are they there? Right? Why are they there? The players are still playing the game. They simply don't care enough to check their defense, and for them, the bazaar rewards aren't really worth it. Yes, you can get a sacred shard. I believe the cooldown's a week like most of these things. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of grinding for a sacred shard. Now listen, if you're free to play, you need to do everything in your power to make sure you're getting as many points as possible, getting as many shards you can from the rewards available to help you out in fusions, guaranteed events, all things like that. But to some players, especially whales, they just don't care. They said, you know what, I'd rather spend the $1 a day in the normal shop on a ancient shard instead of 1,200 gold bars. They would just rather do that instead, and I get it. I do get it for sure. There's just a lot lacking. The shop's fine, like I said. I think there's nothing wrong with the rewards there. The price of the rewards, it's fine for me personally. Maybe you guys don't agree with that. But there should be more incentive for this whole 3v3 thing. I don't have an answer to that. Maybe someone else in the comments, you guys can let me know if you have a better answer on how they should approach 3v3. I don't think they should get rid of it. I think the bazaar rewards are too good overall for players to just get rid of it. I mean, Drextar's such a good champion, especially in the Doom Tower for progression. So these are things that I don't think they should just simply get rid of, but I really do think they need to kind of focus in on what they plan on doing. And like I said, we're not complaining here because we do know that this year of 2022 is the year they're going to focus on player versus player. So I'm really hoping that includes some type of revamp for 3v3 tag arena, classic arena, and whatever future content is on the horizon for us in that fashion. So now that we've gone over that, this kind of ties into the next point, the time we spend in this game. What is the deal with the time it takes to do everything we need to do inside this game? Now, they recognize this problem, and thankfully, and I made sure to clarify this in the interview I did way back then when they started talking about super raids, when I brought up this issue and I said, pause, hold on, you're not suggesting that super raids is going to reduce playtime and going to be the answer to time spent, are you? And they said, no, I just wanted to bring it up, and I had to make sure that's what they meant, because I thought it was weird that they brought up super raids as soon as I talked about time spent, because it's just a way to farm more quicker. It's not saving anybody time. Now you can say if you have 130 energy, I believe it's around 400 or 500 if you're free to play as far as daily free energy goes. I see the point. Super raids are active. You can burn through that energy twice as fast if it is in a viable dungeon of your choice. I get that for sure, but time spent, something's got to be done, whether it's speeding up how long it takes to do the normal Demon Lord clan boss, giving us 3 times speed, or I did propose this in a separate video, making it so you can instant complete certain aspects of the game. The ones I specifically talked about were Faction Wars, Doom Tower. So what do I mean by that? If you complete a Faction Wars stage, we're just going to say 21 for the sake of things. If you complete it full auto, 3 stars, 25 times in a row, from that moment on, you can instant complete the stage forever, saving you however many minutes you were spending on that faction war. That's a step in the right direction. Same thing for Doom Tower. Something where if you complete a stage a certain amount of times full auto without losing any character, there can be some special condition to it, you can now instantly complete that section of the Doom Tower forever. I do see the point where they can be hesitant. Reducing playtime means people spend less money factually on an analytical scale, so I see why they're kind of taking things slow, but they said they have something up their sleeve as far as what they're going to do to reduce the time. I'm skeptical. I would certainly like to see that for sure. So that's pretty much going to be my stance on the time spent. I think we can all agree with that. The next thing is going to be the 10 times and 2 times events. Now, this is another thing I've talked about quite recently as far as we are getting so many new legendaries into this game. I'm sure we all noticed this, and the rates are still staying the same. Now, this is going to correlate with if people are still spending the money as frequently or more frequently based on the amount of legendaries they add. They're never going to change this. It's literally up to us as the players to determine their analytics and how they approach this. Am I saying there should be a 4 times event? Not really. I think 2 times events are the only thing that's doable and understandable as of right now. 10 times events, I've done videos on the chances you really have, breaking down all of the math. By huge shout out to HG Senti for providing me with that information here, and 10 times events are ridiculous. The probability you have is so low, even if you pull thousands of shards, and it just keeps getting worse as they keep adding champions. So 25 times events, it may sound crazy like a huge jump, but it's really not. I promise you the jump from 10x to a 25x really isn't that big, and I don't know, like, where's the line here? How many more hundreds of champions are they going to add to the game before we do see a change in the 10x event? Now, 10x it's mostly for whales. Unless you're really close to pity, then it doesn't really matter what your standing of spending in this game is, but I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed and is currently one of the worst parts of the game. Now, this kind of ties into the second part of this where, and we all know this, the new legendaries they're adding, they look great. I did a video on how incredible champions like this look, but the visible viability of these champions is very low. Now, what do I mean by that? I've been playing for a while, so I can read a kit and get a pretty good gauge as to how good this champion is going to be. It's not going to be perfect. I can definitely be wrong, but the thing is, as you play for a longer and longer time, it's pretty easy to read a kit and say, okay, this is good or this is bad. Now, if I can do that as a player, that means the people making these champions can also do that as well. So my point in this is, why are champions being released that are proving to be much less viable than the current champions in the champion pool? The idea should not be to make some bad champions, some good champions, some amazing champions. What you want to do is you want to lower this margin of a gap as much as we possibly can between the best legendaries in the game and the worst legendaries in the game. That, in my opinion at least, and in kind of a business perspective, should be the company's goal as far as generating the most money and making legendaries feel as good as they should feel. I think that's a pretty fair statement, and I would be shocked if anyone disagrees with that. So instead of making the best champions worse, I'm always pretty against nerfing outside of very specific cases, like if an epic champion's way better than every legendary in the game. It's great if you have it, but is it good for the game overall? No, it really isn't, because it devalues a lot of things, but it's a totally separate topic here. What they should be doing is they should be making the worst legendaries better, so the gap is much smaller between the best and the worst legendary. That's just my opinion here, and they've been releasing some, very questionable champions as of lately. Trying to just click through the factions here to find any of the new champions. If I can. Night Revenant, maybe not. Looks like I'm failing pretty hard here. Vassal, Wither, Ferndig, no. Okay, like, I know everyone's been talking about this guy. First of all, he looks sick. I know he's bad, but for me, I like the looks of champion, so I wouldn't mind pulling him. But as far as this kit goes, everyone understands that he's probably one of the worst legendaries in the game as a Void. Now, why would they release a champion like this? For what reason? Is he potentially useful down the line? Sure, but we can't see it now. You should at least give players some type of heads up, some type of statement saying, we understand champions are going to be underwhelming at the time of release, but fear not, in the future they are going to have very viable places in the game, and that's going to be a conflicting statement. Case in point, Bommel. Bombs were supposed to be the end all for this. They've been buffed, what, twice already? They're still not the best way to handle someone like Bommel. I believe the same thing applies with Hydra. Bombs are supposed to have increased effect against it because it ignores all defense, and their defense is absolutely stacked, and still, none of the best teams for the Hydra has anything to do with bombs. So that's kind of my point here as far as the quality of champions they have been releasing lately, and the viability just based on rating them. If we can notice how bad they are, why can't the company? And how people can say because they don't play their own game. Sure, no game company, especially for raid and mobile gacha games, they're never going to have as good of an understanding of the game as the players who play every single day, obsess over this game, obsess too much over this game for sure. It's not healthy, but that's besides the point here. So that's what I wanted to talk about for that. The next thing is going to be the Hydra. Now we got new content which conflicts with them trying to save time. Do I like the Hydra? Yeah, I think the Hydra's cool. It's a new clan boss. It's something new to do. Do I like I don't know. I guess what's a good way to phrase this? The RNG of it, the game design? No, I don't think it's the best game design. I think there's too much RNG involved. I think the fact that people have to constantly refresh to get the heads they want based on the teams they're building isn't the best gameplay design. And then the last thing is the regroup button. A brilliant thing to add to the game with one major issue. That issue would be you can still wipe. The fact that they didn't put the regroup button all the way at the end, so when you do wipe, you can say, do you want to keep this key? Do you want to not keep this key? Yes or no? That would have been the smartest place for them to have put that free regroup button. But I guess we can take things in stride. I know it's been reported to them feedback wise literally 1,000 times by now, so hopefully, and that is my sincere hope, they take a look at that seriously and understand that the overwhelming majority of feedback is saying the free regroup is great, but it should be at the end because you can get comboed by the Hydra heads and you won't even have time to hit the pause button. It will just disappear, and now you're sitting there with damage less than desirable than you initially intended. So that's my only real complaint about Hydra, and I think people would agree. And on top of that, it takes a ton of time, and The difficulty, listen, new content's supposed to be hard. I don't even want to talk about that right now. Next thing I want to talk about is touchy. We're going to be talking about the login reward structure here. I don't mind the fact that there is a legendary and epic rotating as far as the fragment champion that they replaced. Do I mind that they replaced the legendary book in the 5-star chicken? Who doesn't? Why wouldn't I want sacred shards and 5-star chickens over fragments of a champion we're not sure about? Pretty easy to understand that argument, not even worth talking about because they're never going to go back to it. It is what it is. We have to deal with what we have in front of us. Now, the quality of these champions, questionable. Very questionable. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Cleopteryx, Scion here. I think the quality should be a little bit higher than we're currently getting. And by a little bit, I mean significantly higher. Should we get OP legendaries? No. That would be terrible for the game. It would... Yeah, there's just so much wrong with giving an overpowered legendary from the login reward system here that they just shouldn't do that. But should they really take a look at where players are when they are getting these champions? They have the analytics. This is not like rocket science. They know where most players are at the days they're receiving these champions. They can see very clearly where they're struggling, where they're not struggling. That's what they should be doing. They should be releasing champions based on those analytics alone, no questions asked. Now, I don't know if this is public. I think it is. Don't yell at me if I'm not supposed to say this. The current champions that were picked are either new, like Scion, or Cleopteryx was picked because she was a champion that most players didn't have. That is an horrendous, completely horrendous way to add a new champion to the login reward, because it doesn't matter if a lot of players don't have her. If she's not that good, why does it matter, right? So that's just, maybe they weren't supposed to say that to me. Maybe it's not true. I don't know, but they have said that to me as far as why they picked Cleopteryx, and I just don't agree with that at all. So I think more thought and effort should be put into what champions they rotate as far as legendary and epic, so it makes sense for the players who are getting them based on where they are in the game when they are receiving them. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is going to be the multi-battles. Now, I've seen a lot of players who only play on mobile. This is, in a sense, a mobile game. Most players who play this are all about the mobile thing. So with that being said, I do believe multi-battles should be more. I'm blanking on how to speak English right now. We should be getting more multi-battles. I think it's going to be better for the company overall. It's going to be a way to even out players who don't have access to an auto clicker, who play on a computer. I can tell you for a fact, the second I started playing on the computer, it was an emulator because Plarium Play wasn't out yet. I never picked it up on my phone again. Even to this day, it's rare if I play Raid on my phone once every 4 or 5 months. Very, very rare. So with that being said, I do think multi-battles need to be more accessible in this game for players to get, whether it's in the Bazaar, Clan Shop, it's just added to some other free resources you get. I don't think it should replace anything necessarily, but I think it should be as an added bonus to all players. So players are getting this who don't have access to auto clickers, so the advantage slightens a little bit more. Why do I think this is important? For retention. If players feel like they're falling behind because they're not playing on the computer, because they can't, which is a lot of people, they would much rather play on the phone. They don't have a computer they can play this on. It's common for sure. I know a lot of people watch my YouTube channel on the phone as it is, so listen, case in point right there. So they should definitely make more multi-battles accessible to more players so they can get more farming done while just having their phone on idle, and they can just click a button, put it down somewhere, and they know it's farming. Probably if it's plugged in, because Raid is a battery killer for sure. We all know that. So the last few points is going to be the quality of fusions trend. If you listen, this is going to be my opinion personally. I've stressed this before. The quality of fusions I've noticed has kind of taken a turn for the worst here. Do I understand why? Kind of. We've had a very, very, very strong champions in the past, especially during the Rotos period of Rotos, Molly, Harvest Jack, just this huge string. Tormin, I know I'm forgetting some, forgive me on that. but those are like insane fusion champions. If you compare that to more recently, I'm not saying we're not getting any good champions, we definitely are. Herndag's a good example. There's plenty of examples of solid legendary fusions we are getting, but they're nowhere near, I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, the quality that they used to be. That I get. I don't think fusion should be as strong as like Rotos, for example. I think they kind of learned from that mistake after having to nerf him, what, 2-3 times at this point. So that's kind of where I stand on that. But the current quality, I believe, should be a little bit higher. I feel like most of these champions are extremely viable for early game players, and as you start going up in their ranking system, their viability drops off more and more and more, unless you're a very bored whale and you just want to slap on insane gear and figure out some crazy strategies. Outside of that, I think there needs to be a balance. I think more legendary fusions should be beneficial for the mid-game and late-game player base, and they should stop only catering to the early. Listen, I know they have a huge marketing campaign. It might make sense to them, but I don't think it's best for the overall player base as a whole, even though it is best for all the incoming players. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be the marketplace. What the heck are they doing with this thing? Listen, the fact that we get ancient shards, 5 per month, perfect. That's fine. That's a great reward. Outside of that, everything here has been irrelevant since, I don't know, 9 months into me playing. I would say less than a year of an average player playing. They're just never going to look at the market again. This needs a huge overhaul, a huge revamping of what the deal is here, because the rewards here are terrible and they should have been changed a long time ago, or they should continue to scale up on some metric. This, for those of you who don't know, this is one of the few parts of this game that's been here unaltered since beta. Think about that. Think about how much raid has changed since 2017 when the beta came out, and how everything kind of has evolved besides the market. So that's kind of the common sense indicator that they really need to fix this, and I mean, it needs to be changed ASAP. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. They need to add new things to this. They need to add improved rewards to this, and it is what it is. The last thing we're going to talk about is kind of the most common sense issue this game has. Silver. Silver, it costs way too much in this game. Things are too expensive. We had that period of time where everything was 50% off as far as silver usage. I believe it was when the Hydra first came out. Could be wrong about that. I don't really remember. But that was the only time in the game where I was like, okay, like silver is still kind of expensive, hard to get, but this is much better. They need to keep that in the game all the time. That may sound bad. That may strike the company as, oh, we're going to lose so much money. You're not. You're really not. As someone who's done a lot in business myself, I can tell you that giving players more silver to spend means they can do more activities, they can progress further, and they can get stuck more frequently. If you have a player who's been stuck for 3 months in the same spot, they're likely to quit. If they have access to more silver, they're going to get stuck on multiple thresholds in those 3 months, which is going to incite them to spend money each and every time they get stuck, as opposed to being stuck once and saying, well, I refuse to spend money here, and it just doesn't get better, and they end up quitting. That's not good for anybody. So I've been quite curious about this, while they haven't addressed this at all. Outside of these brief events we have gotten, maybe their analytics showed it didn't do well. I will never believe that. I think the activity skyrocketed as soon as they reduced the silver requirement cost. During that period where it was 50% off, I think they should either make it something you can purchase, and I know I have to be careful when I say something like that because no one wants to spend in this game, but the raid pass, whatever it's called, I think that should be added, as it doesn't give increased silver anymore in the campaign. What it does is it reduces the amount of silver you have to spend by 50% while it's active on your account. Plarium, thank me later. Watch your sales go through the roof. Every single player who spends any money in this game is going to buy that. I can tell you that for a fact. In fact, if you're still watching now, comment below if you wouldn't buy that right now. Whether you're free to play, would you consider spending on something like that? What is it, $10 a month, something like that? And I mean, I think it's just a no-brainer. They should have done that a long time ago. Ideally, we get it for free, but like I said, nothing's really free in this world. So more likely than not, they would even though it's a flawed system they already had, instead of just fixing it for free, it's probably more likely that the company, based on what we know about them, adds an updated raid card and just adds 50% reduced silver cost for everything in the game. If that card is active, I know I would buy it. I haven't bought the raid card since the first year I started playing this game, and yeah, so that's going to conclude this video today. Hopefully, like I said, we address this so we can move forward. We can get everything out on the table that needs major adjustments here. If I missed something, let me know. I didn't talk about a few things that are already on the, I guess, roadmap that doesn't exist, that they said they were going to do. If they don't do that, we can talk about that more down the line. But that's going to conclude this video today. Give me your thoughts, give me your feedback, comment. Please do let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.